Benjamin Netanyahu is denying that Israel is a U.S. protectorate. He made a couple of statements in the past couple of days with the meetings that he had with J.D. Vance and J.D. Vance's visit to Israel, saying that we are not a protectorate of the United States. Why would Benjamin Netanyahu say we're not a protectorate of the United States? Well, because there were so many obvious things now happening in the past couple of days to prove that Israel became effectively a U.S. protectorate. There is a United States base now / HQ controlling anything that's happening with Gaza, preventing the Israeli army from conducting operations. Benjamin Netanyahu, the moment he wanted to escalate again with Gaza with 120 strikes and then saying that I'm not going to actually allow any of the aid in, he backtracked within 2 hours after he received a call from Donald Trump. What are they doing exactly? The American side is imposing things now on the ground that Israel considered to be red lines. They're talking about the lack of Turkish involvement, and now the American side is also saying that they can't guarantee that they won't play a role because they played constructive roles previously. They're our friends and we appreciate what they do. As a matter of fact, now the Turkish IHH is operating in Gaza. IHH is the same organization that sent the Mavi Marmara at the time, very hostile to Israel according to Israeli sources, yet Israel allowed them to go in. Why did they allow them to go in? They allowed them because there's a deal here that has been made, and although we haven't seen all of the details of this deal, it's not all for the sake of Israel. It's not all in the interests of Israel. Donald Trump recently making these remarks about Israel being a proxy state, after he said, oh, Hamas told us they're going to disarm, but there's no hard set time. And you know, when he wants to act like a person who can do something to them, he'll say that, oh, we'll disarm them if necessary, but it's not going to be us. There's never going to be boots on ground in Gaza. It's not going to happen. And it's going to be one of our proxies, maybe Israel. One of our proxies may be Israel. That's Donald Trump saying that Israel is a proxy. That's what he's saying. And again, no hard timeline for when Hamas is going to disarm. Hamas told the American administration, we're willing to disarm so long as there's a Palestinian state. And these weapons would be handed to the Palestinian state. They would be embedded in a Palestinian National Army and in a Palestinian consensus without any foreign intervention. Surely we're not going to be handing in our weapons to our enemies or to the people who were committing a genocide against us. He says Hamas promised they would disarm, but there's no hard timeline. No hard timeline means that this can take decades. That's what no hard timeline means. And Israel is going to have to bite the bullet at the end of the day. Benjamin Netanyahu is having these moves recently and trying to act like he still has some sort of power, clearly not working very well. Because again, Donald Trump used Benjamin Netanyahu's desire to get rid of all of his court cases in Israel and get amnesty to his advantage. He's capitalizing on Benjamin Netanyahu's amnesty, leading Benjamin Netanyahu to make concessions that Benjamin Netanyahu did not even consider before. Now more talks are happening, more Israeli MKs are passing demands for the head of the Israeli Knesset and the Israeli president to grant amnesty to Benjamin Netanyahu. Why is it not Benjamin Netanyahu doing that? It's because if he would be asking for amnesty, he would be proving himself to be guilty to an extent. That's why a group of people around him, and that campaign, that maneuver, was set up in the United States. That was set up by Trump. He finally realized the weak point of Benjamin Netanyahu. He's capitalizing on it. And he most likely told them, you need to get rid of end the war, end the genocide in Gaza, and then that's going to happen. But so long as that's happening, I'm not going to push for it. And guess what? There's a very, very high likelihood that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to get amnesty in Israel after these requests are happening. Because it's not only Benjamin Netanyahu's allies, it's also the Israeli president. The Israeli president is saying that, or has said several times before, that the case against Benjamin Netanyahu is putting a lot of strain on the society in Israel. And we need to get rid of this situation. It's not really going anywhere. He's saying that because, well, the American administration spoke with the Israeli leaders, including the Israeli president as well, and many in the Israeli system too, like the judicial system as well. There are many parties involved in this, by the way. The members of the Supreme Court, previous members of the Supreme Court, all sorts of people in the legal system in Israel, the enforcement system too, at the political level as well, which increases the likelihood of it happening. Actually might happen, but what the American administration would want to make sure of is that Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't get it for free. You see, even in the recent interviews that Witkoff and Jared Kushner had, they said that the Israelis basically took it too far, especially with the strike on Qatar, for example, and their continued insisting on continuing this genocide in Gaza and the escalations in the region too. They're realizing that they're taking it too far, and they're losing. In the United States, they're losing popularity because of this slavery for Israel. So they had to do something to protect themselves and also draw lines. And what we're seeing now is the United States literally drawing lines, some lines finally for Israel. How long is that going to be, and how successful it's going to be in the long run, we still don't know. But what's evident is there are things on the ground that are stopping Israel from an all-out genocide in Gaza. Israel is still breaching. Israel is still being difficult about opening the Rafah crossing, for example. But 600 aid trucks are going in a day. We need 1,000, but 600 is going in, which is no less than the previous agreement, which is what the agreement said now. Organizations that Israel said will not be operating ever in Gaza, like the UN or the IHH. Who ever imagined the Turkish IHH in Gaza? Tractors are working, but also more heavy equipment is needed. In North Gaza too, Hamas figures are roaming around freely. They're moving freely in Gaza. The other day there was an interview with Ismail Radwan, a senior figure from Hamas in North Gaza, speaking live on television. No one's targeting him, no one's doing anything. The armed wing of Hamas is operating in full force, taking down all of the collaborators of Israel and the criminal gangs in Gaza. And Israel is not doing anything, nothing whatsoever. These were red lines. Let's not forget, they were talking about ethnic cleansing. They were talking about total destruction. They were talking about eliminating Hamas. They were talking about so many things that are now diminished. And that is primarily due to the resilience of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian resistance and the global revolution and the global support that the people are giving to Palestinians and the Palestinian cause, especially against the genocide in Gaza. Nothing should be taken lightly from all of these efforts. And we're seeing the results. These are the results of the continued pressure. Again, number one, resilience and bravery of the Palestinians in Gaza, the surrounding support, wherever they got it, and the global support that they're getting. But because this is a result of that, the pressure must continue, because Donald Trump and the American administration, they wouldn't have felt the pressure to take these measures and escalate with Israel if there was no pressure from within. And because there was pressure internally in the United States, Donald Trump started to realize that he needs to take action, and we're seeing some action being taken. But the most important thing is to continue and monitor how that action is being implemented, and to make sure that Israel isn't able to go back to a full-blown genocide in Gaza and completely get rid of all of the escalations and breaches that Israel does against the Palestinian people.